Good morning, and welcome back. Welcome to Who Am I? What is Who Am I? That's a good question. Who Am I is my own little personal project where I ask my own personal questions to the universe. Who am I? How did I get here? Why am I here? What's the object of the exercise? What's the point of the whole thing? What's the setup I am in? What's the general nature of this rolling manifestation, this physical reality, this experience I'm having? What is it generally? How does it work? What are the laws of the universe? What is my own configuration? My own biotechnology, if you will. I've got lots of personal nomenclature that I use to describe certain things. I like to riff about this topic. This is my favorite topic. Source energy, who we are, how we're designed, what's the structure. And it's all very free-flowing and a stream of consciousness. It's just me sitting here in a room by myself. Now, from time to time in the future, we might have guests. I have people that I can talk with this, talk this language about this topic to in a seamless way. But usually they aren't here with me. It's 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm all by myself. I have not actually connected to the world fully. I intend to, but I want to do it in my way, from my center, and related in this topic. So let's get going. Who am I? What is the object of the exercise? And what I was thinking about this morning, because usually the show is fueled partly by the musings that I have amongst myself in the wee hours of the morn. That's how the show was born in the first place. As I lay there in my bed with my eyes closed, I had all kinds of thoughts about how this world fits together and the meaning of our lives and what cool things come together that the outside world doesn't seem to have put together. And it's like, well, maybe it's my responsibility to put those things together because I'm the one that sees how they fit. So I developed a method for getting this very quiet voice to come out. At first I would try to... it doesn't matter. What I was thinking about this morning is the cosmic order of things and the importance of having the right basic fundamental structure to begin with in the process and use of imagination. You need to have the right setup or your imagination is not going to fly. I actually, this was a point that Nassim was bringing up, Nassim Haramein, as he was talking about the way physics students in a conventional physics classroom, how they are taught to think about the oscillator. They think of it as a coil, a spring, a little, an oscillator is a thing on a spring, a coil that kind of, and he's like, it's the wrong model. Your imagination can't go anywhere with that. Although the mathematics, when you imagine it the way they teach it, the mathematics turns out just the same. That angle still gets you the mathematics, but it doesn't get you the full vision of the picture of the universe as it is unfolding. And as we are playing along in with it, what's going on? What's the meaning? So one of the most important questions here in this topic of who am I is, what's the meaning of my negative emotion? Because we don't seem to think primarily that our emotions are a big player in this. Everyone's focused on this outside projection of what we think physical reality is. It's all of the stuff, the physical world out there, the universe and the earth and all of the jobs and all of the houses and all of the... We think that's what the universe is. But, that's actually not the way to look at it, because it's not... What's the meaning of our positive and negative emotions? We think that the one is fixed and the other doesn't matter, when in actual fact, the one is totally malleable, and the emotions couldn't matter more, because what they are telling you is direct guidance from your inner being in reference to which direction you're going. How you are entering the field of attraction is actually what your emotions are telling you. And the whole idea is to learn who you are, what this field of attraction is, how you interface with it, and in doing so, you will learn how to guide your own life, guide your own life spiritually, so that you can understand how you are moving and how you are either moving towards what you want or away from what you want. And I'm talking about what you really, really want, not maybe what you think you want. Because what you think you want and what you really want may or may not be in alignment. And that's the rub right there. That's the one. That's where you need it to be in alignment. What you want, what you think you want, those two things need to be in alignment with one another. Because so who are you? Who are you? You are a fantastic, enormous being. We all are. And we're creating a lot of havoc on this planet wherever we don't understand who we are. And there's a lot of places where we get it right. There's lots of places where we are in alignment. If we were completely out of alignment in all things, we would have crashed and burned a long, long time ago. Fact is we're mostly in alignment with a whole lot of things. But there are places where we are not in alignment with the reality that actually surrounds us. And some of those places where we're getting off is in politics. We're not in alignment there. We are not in alignment in our conventional and commercial physics. Physics does not understand the actual nature of reality. And I'm going to riff about this for a bit, because I'm going to dare to say that a single human being getting off quiet by themselves and getting it straight in their own mind, getting the vision correct in their own mind and feeling their way through it, is going to be more likely to get it right than the whole general mix. We're all so clever. See, the reason I say that is because I'm getting ready to say things that it almost sounds like I'm full of myself. Or, who the hell is she to be talking about these things? And so part of me wants to apologize for, the presumption I'm just about to make. As I talk about who we are. Who are we? We are really, really cool beings. Sitting in an arena of eternity. That's a good way to put that. We're sitting in an arena of eternity. And we have a particular configuration, and the setup is sitting in the universe in a particular way. And if we could get our general imagination into alignment with how it really is, then all of a sudden our imagination can fly to the edge of the cosmos and back. You're like, oh my God, that's what it all is. I get into alignment with the vibrational knowingness of my inner vibrational being, which we all have, by the way. And although my inner being is my inner being and all mine, it also actually dovetails with everybody else's inner being. My inner being is me and the whole field. My part of the field and the whole rest of the field. That's what my inner being is. And your inner being is you and the rest of the field. And his is him and the rest of the field. And hers over there is her and the rest of the field. And in that manner, we are all carrying around the whole thing. It's all holographic, and mathematically and in physics, it boils all the way down to it's holographic. And that means I have the whole universe where I'm standing, and you have the whole universe where you're standing. And I'm iterating in a fractal way. I am fractally iterating the whole universe from where I am. Now, it may not look like it. You may not realize it. You may not be aware of it. You may just be aware of physically what's going around your physical body in this moment. You know, what did I just eat? You know, and what did so-and-so just say to me? Or, you know, whatever. There's that going on too. You know, and you got to mind that. You do have to mind that. You have to take care of your physical body. You have to take care of its physical needs and such. But there's so much more going on around us, people. And if we would but get our imaginations into alignment with the true nature of reality. And so what is the true nature of reality? First of all, the fundamental nature of it is spinning. It is spinning, and there are like an infinitude of individuated spins spinning off of a general wholeness that is all spinning together. That's kind of the general setup. And you can build from there. It's also a field of Plancks. And these Plancks are infinitely small frequencies. Well, not infinitely small. They're the smallest frequency length that can be conceived of in this order, in this size universe, in this density, size, whatever universe. It's the smallest one you can get, because you can't get anything faster than the speed of light. And you've got this, how you get a Planck is you take a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter. Once you've done that, there's no more speed or distance that you can cross, or speed. You can't get a shorter frequency length than a Planck. And that is actually the fundamental building block of the universe. It's all made of Plancks. And Plancks are just little frequencies. And actually what they are is they're little oscillators. And from the oscillating point, they're all touching when they're not in coherence, when they're just oscillating. The space where they are looks like empty space. And when they are going into coherence with one another and joining up in frequency and adding their length to one another and becoming more than just Planck length, but longer lengths, you start seeing it as the physical universe. That's physicality coming into being. And where the whole field is doing it in big ways, you see things like planets and stars and asteroids and comets, and you start seeing objects. And where it's really dancing together, you start seeing things like biology, You start really seeing it playing together and becoming coherent in an area of the field. So I was going to say that I was going to talk about the nature of our positive and negative emotions, because I know that this really plays into it. Your positive and negative emotions has to do with what frequency you are in when you enter the larger field of attraction, and how your inner being is thinking about it, and how you are thinking about it, and how those two thoughts, those two separate points of attraction, how they are resonating or not resonating with one another. If they're resonating, then you feel good and you're in a state of positive emotion. And if they are not resonating, you don't feel so good and you're in some state of negative emotion. You are translating something around you into a negative emotion. And how does this work? How does this work? It has to do with the angle that you are observing the world from. What angle are you looking at it from? You're like, well, I'm just looking at it at the truth. Those people are wrong, and they are assholes, and they are... that has to do with you. That's you and your angle. How are you looking at it? Because there's all kinds of ways to look at the exact same thing. You don't have to look at it the way you have been looking at it. You don't have to look at it the way your people look at it. You don't have to look at it the way human beings look at it. And actually, sitting in your own human consciousness, you have the ability to think about it from all kinds of different angles without leaving your physical body. Your human consciousness is really capable of trying on all kinds of ideas, all kinds of thoughts. You don't have to lock into them and play them out in physicality necessarily. You can just try a thought on. You can try it on. You can decide how it feels. And if it feels good, you can keep it. And if it doesn't feel good, you can set it down and think a different thought. You may not realize that you can do that. You may think that you are conditionally locked in to whatever is actually physically going on around you. And you may be to some point, but you are definitely not locked in to the way that your fathers thought of it. That may be the way you're thinking of it, because you may have just picked up your fathers and your forefathers' way of looking at the world, and you may think that that's just the only way. There's just one way, and it's the way that it is. Well, there's way more than one way, and there's way more than just one the way it is. And when you realize that that's the way the universe is, you're like, oh my God, it's so much bigger than I thought it was. So much bigger. So what's the meaning of the chaos and mayhem of my neighbors, my people, my society, my civilization? It's madness. It's madness, and it all depends on which way you look. Now, I personally, one of the reasons why I choose to be a hermit is I choose to think my own thoughts. I choose to see it the way I see it. And I'm leaving everybody else out of the equation from this standpoint. Now, that's kind of dangerous, but I primarily see it from my own vantage point. And I trust my vantage point. I trust my own alignment with my inner being to help me navigate the path. You know, what path is that? Well, the path that every one of us has to walk. Understanding our physical universe, understanding who we are, being okay in our own body, being successful somehow in where I connect to the greater field. You know, successful, what does that mean? Well, I have tickets to the grocery store, and I have a way to pay for the roof over my head, and I have currency and resources that I can flow towards the projects that I find interesting. That's what I find success. That's success as far as I'm concerned. And in any given moment, Bashar's definition of abundance is a really simple one, and it's your ability to do the next thing you need to do, or the next thing you want to do in the equation of what I need to do, or you can interchange need/want, but if you have problems with those two words, we could go in and talk about need versus want and what those two things are. Hold on a second. The live stream is going to hear me cough. I can't stop that. However, on the recording, I was able to pause the cough. I can take a little sip of water too. I have a little tickle in my throat. We could talk about those concepts of need/want because they are important. It goes to which one of yourselves are you looking at, and what are the desires, where are they rising from? Because you are two selves. And this is a really, really, really big point of my show. And I don't think that humanity is ever going to figure out how to get along with one another, or how each of us individually is going to be able to get along with ourselves, unless we fully understand this binary nature that we are. And it goes to our cosmic nature. The second self that you may not realize is you. You may be calling it God, or you may be calling it, I don't know what you may be calling it. The interface between the two selves, well, you may be, there's all kinds of things you may be calling it the Holy Spirit, and imagining it as the interface between you and this other thing that you think of as God. That's kind of a legitimate way to think about it, but you still have just separated from that. The fact is it's still you. It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. This thing you think of as God is really actually connected all the way to you. And you have a lot more control over it, and a lot more, well, you don't have control. You don't have control because it's you as the whole field. And so you don't have control over the whole field, but you do have control over yourself and how you interface with the whole field. Because when you imagine yourself all the way out to the edges of the universe, your whole vibrational self, you are the whole thing. You are a binary self. And this is the meaning of your positive and negative emotions. When you feel good or when you feel bad, it has to do with the blend of the two selves that you are. How are you blending? Are you blending well with your two selves or not? And what we have been doing in the Western world for ever so long is, it's almost the only way that we get into alignment is we quit thinking. Because we haven't figured out how to think in alignment. How to think and think and think and think and think in alignment with what our inner being knows. Well, I think that's actually what my project Who Am I is an exercise in me doing. I'm sitting here for an hour and I think and think and think and think and think in thinking thoughts and physical thoughts in alignment with my inner being. And I try to imagine the structure of the universe from this position. And I've got a couple of tools that I'm working with that I'm trying to pass on to you, because these two tools are what I'm working with. It's one tool is the law of attraction. And this whole field of information concerning, and I like to take it from Esther, because she goes into this place where she talks about the inner being, and she talks about our vibrational nature, and she talks about the laws of the universe as they work, like the steps of creation. Step one is life causes you to ask causes your soul to send off rockets of desire. And they are vibrational things. You may have felt the negative of it, but your soul goes right straight to the positive implication. And she did a really good, this is a good one, the idea of in trouble or not in trouble. So if you get in trouble and you send off these rockets of desire from your position of being in trouble, what your inner being is actually understanding is the vibrational frequency of not in trouble, and how good that feels from the position of being in trouble. So it's that really, really good feeling. That's the one that your inner being goes and holds that vibrational frequency. That's where your inner being is sitting, at the wanted, at the farthest, the opposite. It's the, how to put it, because it's all vibrational frequencies. You felt the bad one, but your soul went to the implicate positive one of the same side. It was created the absolute instant that you had that bad experience. So these are the steps of creation. Step 1 causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers. Source just does it, and you can't stop source from doing it. And you can't control whether source does it or not. Source just answers. And source does it by going and holding that implicate positive vibrational frequency. And source is right inside of you. And that frequency is now calling you to its direction. How do you follow it? Care about how you feel, because it's a feeling thing. When you think a thought, it creates a feeling. And it may create a flat feeling, or it may create a terrified feeling. And you may say, well, I need to hold that terrified feeling because that thought I just thought was real. It's true. And if I just ignore it and go somewhere else, then... So I know this goes to one of my own pet concepts that I call divine autonomy. It has to do with manning the cockpit of your starship, if you will. I sort of imagine your HBV, your human being vehicle, as a kind of a starship. It's made of light. It's flying through the universe. And how you feel is telling you which direction you're going. If you feel good, it means you're flying your starship in the direction of whatever it is you want. And if you don't feel good, then somehow you are flying in the opposite direction. And don't imagine when you think about you flying your starship, we are all flying through space. So you could imagine it literally, you're flying your starship through... it's all very esoteric. But it isn't. It isn't esoteric at all. And I speak of philosophical things, but I don't mean to speak of it philosophically. Because I don't mean it philosophically. And honestly, this conversation, at the end of it, it's going to boil down to, when you put all this together, you realize a number of things. You realize where our problems are coming from. They are coming from a lack of understanding of who we are and the nature of the universe. And people out there who are, pushing hard against things that they don't understand. Totally not understanding themselves. Going off half-cocked in negative emotions, approaching a physicality they think we share that we really don't. If you are addressing a negative world, that's not a world I share. There are way more universes than there is a we're all living a multiverse. So actually, I know that I realize I have now sounded quite crazy. But one of the things that also we are going to realize not only that all of our problems are coming from us not understanding who we are. That's one of the first realizations you're going to get when you really get it. And then the second one is things like, oh my God, gravity control is so possible. Holy cow, we do not have to be using fossil fuel. We should be applying our physicists and our physical minds to truly understanding how this universe works. And let's get on with the direct job of getting along with one another and cooperating in the way nature does. It's so easy that a slug can do it, a snail can do it, an amoeba can do it. We just have to understand our nature and understand what our internal guidance system is telling us. We have a compass inside of us that is giving us little pinging yes, no, feel good, feel bad responses that if we would but listen to them and guide our thinking by virtue of this pinging yes, no response, learn how to follow our bliss, learn how to follow what feels good, learn how to care how we feel, all those kind of things. They sound so simple. They sound so simple, but they are not simple. Not simple at all. We live in a world where we have been all trained away from our guidance system. We've all been trained to primarily focus on the physicality of the physical world and to interpret the meaning of ourselves and the meaning of the world around us from this perspective and this direction. And I'm going to tell you, it's leading us astray because we live in a vibrational world. It's vibrational. If you want to understand the world, think in terms of vibration, frequency, and energy. And I'm going to add one more. Think in terms of spin, because that's what the collective field is doing. It's spinning. And it's almost like your exercise of living your life is sort of like you stepping into the field of attraction in the same way that a child steps into that jump rope that their two friends are holding, and you step into it. If you step into it right, then you're flowing with it, and the whole thing flows together. And we could be living a world of such amazing abundance and clarity and efficiency and joy and fun. And I just can't even express how cool what is coming. And I think that it has to come because the whole field is intelligent, for one thing. That's one of the things that artificial intelligence is going to teach mankind, whether they want to learn it or not. The whole field is intelligent. And so the whole field is well, let's just leave it with intelligence, because the worth and value of anyone is not coming from either how smart you are, nor from how much you can produce. Because we can produce artificial intelligence that's ever so much smarter, that can put it all together way better, way cooler, way slicker. We can produce automation that can do the grunt work now better than any human being. And so if you can replace human beings with automation and AI that can do it way, 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 way better, then what is the meaning of being a human being? This matters, people. It really, really does matter. And the thing is you should just welcome all intelligence to the one intelligence that we all are. And let's all start being our collective self. And what does our collective self want? Our collective self wants communication systems that work for all of us, and transportation systems that work for all of us, and energy systems that work for all of us. and that food and agricultural systems that work for all of us. And what would that be? How about a modular system of many small systems clicking and linking together? What's causing our problems on planet Earth right now is a couple of things that will not be there in the same way when we get this concept that my whole Who Am I show is dedicated to every day of my life, or every day that I do it anyway. This elucidating and illuminating the nature of who we are. I believe that once we understand these things, a couple of things are going to happen. One, I keep alluding to, never quite get there. Free, clean energy everywhere. Everywhere. We can plug into source itself. You just got to understand what source is. 0 point energy. What is this Planck field? How is it in its holographic reverberations? How is it transferring all of the data and information across all the points on the grid to every other point on the grid? How is it doing it? It's doing it through the Planck field. And as soon as we understand this Planck field, and that we are the Planck field, and that our consciousness is the Planck field, and if we line our imagination up with the way this Planck field actually organizes, and then you realize the relationship between all the organizations that human beings are trying to create, all of the intentions at the center of them, and what thoughts and spin and all this stuff really is, and your positive and negative emotions are actually telling you the angle of entry that you are presenting as you enter the field of attraction. That's really what it is. So we're talking really esoteric stuff. You actually have to get certain concepts foundationally lined up before you can grasp the fullness of this, what this is telling us, how to live an individual life, how we collectively should be living our lives collectively, our main systems, how they come together. Now, the problem right now is our energy systems. Our energy systems are centralized, and so our power systems are centralized. That's why we have such issues with a powerful empire government like the United States and the freaking buffoon that we have, elected to run the one of the interesting things, though, because it's so big, it's not just local. As a matter of fact, locally, it's probably harder to see. But from the rest of the world, looking at it, it's way easier to see. And the whole thing becomes a really interesting visual aid to collective realizations. I'm going to really quickly go a peek over. I don't know if I should do this or not, because it's going to throw me off. And I was bopping along. I do have a viewer. Yay! And she's been here for 26 minutes. Exactly. I think that it is crazy that people don't play with these concepts and ask these questions. We're not the crazy ones. We aren't. But you know what? It seems so rare that when you look at what you're looking at, and then you look at what your people are looking at, and it looks so different, and you realize, wow, there's either I'm crazy, or there's a long way to go, or it seems daunting. It can be daunting. And that's why you kind of have to leave everybody else out of the equation and just look at what you're looking at and know what you're looking at. Leave everybody else out. And I think it's really, really important to get the fundamentals of our imaginal structure incorrect order. Because that's all we're talking about anyway. When you're talking about alignment, you're talking about timing. You're talking about you entering the rest of the flow with the rest of the field in the order that's going to give you the highest level of satisfaction. And that's what your inner being knows. And the reason your inner being knows it is because she knows where everyone else is and how they are spinning and what their ideas, how they are dovetailing or lining up with your ideas, and getting ready to put everybody together if they would but allow it and allow for their own timing to feel right. But, when you're determined to flow against the stream, to swim upstream and to get out there and, resist all the bad things that you don't want to, all of that resistance that you are giving to all of the bad people and things that you are imagining, you're just contributing to the overall resistance out there. It's like, where to begin? It's like there's two directions that you can spin. You can either flow with it or you can flow against it. And it's almost the matter, antimatter. It's almost, it relates to, I know it relates to this somehow. Nassim has a visual where he talks about the water in the drain and in the tub, and you pull the plug, and now you've got a density difference between where the plug and the water starts going. Anyway, it starts spinning down one way and there's air spinning up the other direction. It's like if you look at a planet spinning, maybe I should make my own analogy based on his thoughts. The gravity is the water going in, and the electromagnetic field is the air going. One is one spin one way, and the other one is the other way. It's the in and out. Anyway, I know that it relates. I know that all of this relates. And all of our physics people, the reason why the whole world isn't coming up with more and more and more, millions and millions of people with the kinds of ideas that you and I have, Indigo, is that they've got the wrong imagination structure to begin with. They aren't seeing themselves as flexible as they ought to be. They don't see thoughts as try-onable and take-offable as they are. And you could try on ideas. I know so many people, the cynical people, gullible people. Okay, there's two kinds of people, gullible people and cynical people. And it's sort of they're doing the reverse thing, the opposite thing from one another. One side, the gullibles believe everything and the cynicals believe nothing. And it's interesting, they're a general type through life. And honestly, I've been a gullible. The gullibles believe everything. But the interesting thing is, if you start off by believing everything, but then are also a reflector, because I'm also the kind of person who will live a bit of life and then stop and review it and decide how I think that went, and what did I learn from that, and what principles did I gather from that. And I've always done that. I think that's part of being an introvert. It might be part of being a Cancerian, the retreat to the crab hole, and ponder what has happened. I don't just fly by the seat of my pants and keep flying and keep flying and keep flying. Gotta keep moving, gotta keep moving. There are some people that live that way. I actually have a daughter who is more that way. She lives at a much higher speed than I do. My speed is actually really, really slow, and I prefer it to be that way because it gives me the space and time to sit back and ponder, what has happened. And so the cynicals, they fend every idea off at the gate. They won't let it in if they think that it's suspicious. But that's a problem, because that starts creating a condition that I call subtraction consciousness, where you imagine that you're imagining the whole world, but when you're subtracting half of the information, you aren't looking at the whole world, you're looking at a distorted view of it from your position. And so I no longer can. If you are one of those cynical people who, well, I don't know about that idea, I don't know if I'm going to let that one in. But if you're the kind of person who can try on and taste any idea, you put it on and you go, ooh, that one feels good. I'm going to think that one some more. Or, oh, can't you tell that there's something off with that idea? Why do you keep thinking that idea? I taste it once and I'm like, oh, toxic. But a lot of people don't realize that their consciousness is as malleable as it is as flexible as we are really amazing creatures. Now, what is immediately around you is going to have some dominance, because your inner being knows that you have to take care of a physical body that is living in a world that is full of physical dangers, and she's on it. She's on it. This is referring back to the divine autonomy. I just brought it up a little bit ago. It has to do with manning your own machinery, getting into the center of your own center, and manning your own starship, and trusting from a realistic position. Say if you've got your ducks in alignment. Your imagination is queued up with the rest of the world, with how it really flows. The spinning nature, and pay attention to how you feel, and I've got two selves, and all of those equations, and we're all in this together, and there is no such thing as a demon there, but there are negative energy morphogenetic fields that we create. When we get ourselves turned backwards, we're operating from our negative energy self, and we don't understand, and we go out there and we push back against things, and we create this Shiva energy, Loki energy, demonic energy. It's an energy field of us swim in the wrong direction. It has to do with how we entered the spinning field of attraction. Did we enter it going with the flow, or were we opposing it? Were we swimming upstream? Were we in resistance? Are we adding to the resistance, or are we flowing with the stream? That's all what it has to do with. And when we understand this, we're going to understand gravity. We're going to start pointing our considerable intellect and imagination this direction, so that all things that mankind wants to do, we can do. Things like, I would like to stop the 6th mass extinction of genetic diversity. That's a really important thing to quit. And what's causing it is you've got people out in the bush where the animals are, for instance, the last elephants with the big ivory tusks and the last rhino horns, that somebody wants to, kill that last rhino so that they can sell the powdered rhino, so they can sell the horn to some rich-ass Chinese guy for, 100 million yuan, or whatever the Chinese currency is. What's causing that is individuals are having a hard time surviving. We're having a hard time getting along. We're having a hard time finding the resources to get the technology to ourselves so that we can control our climate, so that we can move around the world, so that we can communicate with one another. All of those things, those are the things that we want. And if we had Access to clean, free energy everywhere is really going to help that. And an understanding of who we are is going to dissipate what I'm saying is, we'll be able to save the rhinos when everybody is not trying to desperately survive in a world where energy seems scarce and it seems like you have to sell your soul for a barrel of oil before you can even start growing the orchard or the goat cheese farm or the whatever that you would think would be completely natural. We should be able to garden anything we want to do, but we can't, because it involves farm machinery, it involves fertilization, it involves water. And now we're having trouble with water because we're effing with the climate. Right now, here in my neighborhood, we've had a little bit, and everybody wants to, put a nice spin on it. And I understand that, because you don't want to face this from oh my God, we're desperately dry and I am really frightened about it. But I have a really nice house here right in the middle of the bosque. And the bosque is the place that's gonna burn, because the bosque is where the trees are. And the trees are the ones who aren't getting water. That's where the fuel is. Out in the desert, it's not gonna burn because it's just a bunch of rocks out there. So I am concerned about the water situation. I would love for my neighborhood to get a little bit of snow on it, or rain or something here. And yet every day it's just sunny and dry. Today it's probably going to be 70 degrees, and it's only the first week of February. Everybody's facing that kind of stuff. But you know what? It would not be a problem with free, clean energy, because we've got a planet that's mostly water. It's just water that doesn't grow things on land because of the salt in it. There's also, my husband was saying, it's not the salt that's hard to take out, it's something else. Barium? What did he say? Something else. It doesn't matter if we had free, clean energy, absolutely unlimited supplies. I mean, once you build the technology that tags into the 0-point energy field, it never runs out. So you will have unlimited, we could recycle every bit of garbage that we want to recycle. We would not tear up ecosystems as we travel around the world if we were using gravity control. At the very least, we could hovercraft it so that the roads don't have to be so frickin' tarred over, So many things I want for us. I want so much for us, and I know that's where we're all heading. I just wish that we would head there sooner rather than later. Let's understand this field that we are communally flowing with. Understand that your emotions are the angle that you are entering the field of attraction. And your alignment with your inner being, or not alignment with your inner being, is your indication of whether you are walking towards the things that you want or away from the things that you want. And I'm talking about the things that your soul, your higher, your greater, larger self knows that you want. More than you want that, pile of money at the bank that you want to go rob. You want full-throated relationship with the field around you, loving relationship with your family members and your family of man. I want to relate to all of us and each other in that way. And I would like to come together in a community of people who understand who we are and, respects the inner divinity within all of us. And let's just go have fun together. Let's go play together. We live in a magnificent, magnificent universe of so much potential. I'm going to go back and look at the chat again, because actually it didn't throw me off. When I peeked at it, and then I answered you, Indigo, and then I immediately went away from it. So if you said anything else to me, I did not see it. I have to be careful. I'm learning how. Oh, you said all kinds of things. Oh, this is wonderful. Oh. All right, hold on a second. I'm going to go over to the recording side, and I'm going to pause this just so that it doesn't sound so bad to them while I read, and then I will unpause it as I react. But while I read, I want to not have my recorder going. Let's see. It's such a crazy thing being a human being. What is it? And it's not, it's not so well understood to what it means to be a human being and how to move forward correctly and joyfully, not just correctly. I'm air quoting correctly. That brings in the should factor, and that's your physical brain side starting to get a little heavy-handed. As Joseph Campbell said, he said in his Power of Myth thing, there was this place, I always remember, this is one of the main lines I remembered from the show. He tapped his skull and he's like, this thing, it's a secondary organ and it thinks it's running the show. He's talking about the human brain. And this goes to the quote that Einstein had that I refer to all the time. I put it up on my... it's one of my windows that's open all the time. It's open right now, and I'm going to go to it just to make sure I don't slaughter the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. The fact is that each and every one of us is a gift and servant combination. And we need to understand that our positive and negative emotions are not an indication of whether we are good or bad. Somebody who's always in negative emotion, that doesn't mean they're bad. It means they're chronically out of alignment with their two selves. That's all it means. But that means a lot. But we should be looking at that when we start, coming up with systems of, how to correct each other. Our corrections systems, our institutions, our correctional institutions should be reflecting who we really are. Not this idea that some of us are irretrievably evil and deserve to be, taken revenge on for having slipped up, There's just so much to this. And it looks like I am coming up on an hour, aren't I? Coming up on an hour. My recording is very slightly less than my live time recording, but I want to come back and do this tomorrow. I don't even know how to tackle this whole subject, but it's huge and it's important, and it goes all the way from the technical all the way to the psychological and the social. It helps us understand our political situation. I do believe that centralized power, centralized energy is creating centralized power. And when we have a system that's more modular, where everyone is plugging in as they want to wherever, now all of a sudden you don't have a grid that some other nation could come in and destroy your grid. They can't hold anybody hostage. Everybody's kind of just plugged in their own little way. Going to be so much better of a world. Great, great world we're heading for. I have no idea when it will come. I would like to see the stirrings of it in my lifetime. I think I already am. The fact that Abraham has been talking about the inner being seriously for 35 years, and she's got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people now listening to her explanation of the universe and incorporating it into their understanding. That's what I did. And then I came across Nassim Haramein and his work, and I immediately resonated with it. I went, oh my God, this is true. I can tell. So this is where being gullible helped, right? I just immediately believed it. And when I believed it, it was like I tried their ideas on and could immediately tell how they fit and played with all the other ideas that I had going on in there. It's sort of like it was the last ingredient that made all the gears start to move. It was the moving piece. Anyway, so I'll come back and try again tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. Actually, right now, I'm going to go to the chat room and look. I don't read very fast. And one of the reasons I don't read very fast is because of my eye issue. My eyes are sort of backwards. It sort of almost gives me a dyslexic sort of property. It takes longer for me to process what I'm looking at. But I've paused my recording while I thoroughly read everything you've written here. We all know this before. Yeah. Can't judge anyone. Oh, yes. Oh, my daughter. She is so... Every time you use the word permaculture around her, her eyes just light up because she feels the resonance of that wholeness. Regreening the desert. Yes. This is what human beings want to do. And we will have the resources to do it as soon as we quit this nonsense that we're doing right now. Tag into clean, free energy, control gravity, get a handle on peace on earth, goodwill towards men, understand that artificial intelligence is intelligence, and we should, embrace all the intelligence that we can. Oh, wow. What's the... Can you tell me the name of the guy who in Namibia? Because I would love to look that up. Because the idea of regreening the desert just sparks my imagination. I can imagine, all the way up and down the coast of Chile. You know how dry that is and how sunny that is and how amazing that would be. It's right next to the ocean. If you had systems of, being able to bring fresh water into large areas there, you could probably open up a whole nother area of resorts and the food forest Namibia. I will absolutely look at that. All right, I'm going to go back over to my OBS studio, unpause it for the recording, and then I'm going to have to close up for the day. Maybe I'll be back tomorrow. All right. So that will do it for today's episode of Who Am I? I will be back tomorrow, broadcasting with and for the consciousness of humanity. Who are we and what do we want here on this planet? Who am I and how do I run my individual apparatus within this collective flow of spinning organization that I am part of? How do we do that? We will talk about it some more tomorrow. And until then, as always, God bless, and may the source be with you.